Okay, we are live. You can just get started. Welcome, Sarah. Great to have you here.
Hi, thank you. I'm Sarah Levy from Tel Aviv. Great to be here. And I just came back from a long weekend in London. I traveled there for Big Data London, which was, the conference was really awesome. And I just returned, and I'm also a mother of three children, so I had to find some arrangement for them for the trip. And I have two boys, so my younger boys stayed with their grandparents, but my older 15 years old daughter, well, she insisted on staying home alone. Now, here's the dilemma, right? On the one hand, I understand how important it is to let your kids be independent and autonomous. You have to learn how to trust them and have them explore. It's the only way, the best way for them to become creative and smart and responsible. They need this level of freedom. But at the same time, 15 years old girl, 3 days home alone, who knows what she's up to, right? Now, thank God we've got the technology today, smartphones, to sort of govern our children remotely. So I can know exactly where she is and what she does right from here from my phone. And you can be sure I set some clear rules expecting her to tell me what she's doing and when. But as parents, I feel that we often need to navigate this delicate balance between freedom and governance. Now, too much freedom leads to chaos. But what about too much governance? They might never discover who they really are and what's their inner strengths. We all agree we have to make some mistakes in life to learn our lessons. Now, I think you can understand where I'm heading with this. We can definitely apply this freedom versus governance dilemma to our daily data practices, or even more specifically, Looker or DBT. So, Looker represents freedom. And in teams using Looker for data visualization, this is the bread and butter for analysts. Whether it's creating custom measures using the Looker point and click interface, or defining measures and dimensions in LookML views, or even SQL statements in derived views, that's the tool allowing analysts to craft the logic fast, test their ideas, and deliver reports on time. DBT represents governance. It can be considered today the de facto industry standard for coding business logic within the data layer, and with all the great governance benefits of software development tools. In fact, DBT allows us to govern a central data model where we can manage our entire business logic centrally and have everyone use consistent and aligned definitions, what we call source of truth. Now, finally, we all have to agree that business logic is dynamic. It is continuously evolving, and new terms always emerge. These constant changes happen on the business side of things, right? Not some back office of engineers. So when a new idea comes up, or next time you need to build or change a metric, where this needs to happen, in Looker or in DBT. Now, my name is Sarah, as I told you, and about 2 years ago, I co-founded Uno with one goal in mind: to help data teams strike the balance between the freedom of self-serve analytics and the governance of central data models. I've spoken in the past year or so with over 250 data teams and data leaders, all from companies that implemented a modern data stack and started using DBT for the data transformations. And guess what? They all share this vision of having one central place to manage business logic. They're all super excited about DBT, but at the same time, they all experience lots of challenges with this process. And let's try to figure out what happens. So, as I said, almost every team I'm speaking with is in the process of building a central data model, shifting the logic outside the BI layer, outside Looker, outside Tableau, and building those data model within the data layer. They all understand that that's key if they want to deliver trusted data products efficiently. No one wants business logic to be siloed or trapped anymore. And in fact, the emergence of DBT as the industry standard for codifying business logic unlocks the potential to make this vision a reality. But in those interviews that I'm having with data people, sorry, with data people and data teams, although almost all of them are in the process of centralizing their business logic and building a central data model in DBT, many, and especially the large scale ones, are struggling with this and experiencing a lot of challenges. And I always like to explore with them why. So, if there's anyone here and try to think if you resonate with this. And some of them feel frustrated because since they started implementing DBT, everything needed to go through the bottleneck of some central team. So they're experiencing friction and bottlenecks, and this took away from the business the autonomy and the flexibility and the independence in delivering data results. Now, some of the teams, experience frustration because they gave so much freedom to analysts that they end up having a total mess in their business logic with tons of duplicates and siloed logics and conflicting definitions and inefficient implementations. And you know what? Most of the teams I'm speaking with are frustrated because of both things. So, what I did next was trying to double click into these challenges and trying to figure out why this is happening. Why are all those teams experiencing those problems? And I believe the reason is that business logic is dynamic. It changes all the time. It's a living thing. It's not a one-time project to build your data model. Now, you need your analysts need the freedom to define and build new terms as they go, and then data teams need to go back and formalize and codify these elements into the central data model, into reusable elements. But as much as this process is clear and works when the team is small, as data organizations grow, this practice just doesn't scale. Data models accumulate as well as data products. No one can really remember anymore where to find things and what every definition means. When you're small, it's very simple to be aligned and understand everything. But as you scale, as data teams scale, this becomes very, very hard. And it's becoming even harder to enforce a certain discipline and expecting everyone to follow, strict policies. So, or the way I quoted here, and I heard it dozens of times, as you scale, you just cannot govern your analysts. They will always find their workarounds. And you know what? For a good reason, because no one wants to slow down the business. So before we speak about, what can be done about that and how I think we can help solve this, um, um, let's try to take a look at the history of data modeling and try to go back and figure out how we got here in the first place. So first was Looker. And when Looker entered the scene, beyond just being a powerful visualization tool, it introduced the concept of a central semantic language. It allows us to manage our reusable business logic in one central repository. For data analysts, this became the go-to for crafting complex data transformations and defining metrics on the spot, all through the powerful lens of Looker's semantic language called LookML. Now, then came DBT. DBT came along, setting a new standard for data transformations right within our data warehouse. You no longer need your business logic to be trapped in BI tools like Looker. With dbt, you get all the governance classic software development benefits like version control and documentation and testing, and your business logic is managed centrally and can be used and reused by various data applications and users. It's aligned, it's consistent, it's scheduled, and it's optimized for performance. Now, with this evolution from Looker to dbt, the classic recipe seemed quite straightforward, right? You lay your foundations with dbt, and then you use LookML to teach Looker how to navigate it. Let me rephrase this, or in other words, this translates to crafting transformations in dbt and then directing all your Looker views to point to dbt models. I think every team using dbt and Looker just knows that that's the common practice. This also means favoring dbt first approach for new custom fields. For a while, we needed to save Looker from metrics, but today you can even build most of your metrics in dbt, allowing data teams to go after this sweet spot of building their entire data model in dbt and saving Looker just for visualizations. But even with the power to build an entire data model in dbt, the classic problems persist. And I've categorized these problems into what I call the 3 S's: skill, speed, and scale. So let me start with skill. dbt is not just simple SQL. In order to participate in the evolution of the data model in dbt, you have to adopt an engineering mindset and time frame and context, things business analysts often lack, and for a good reason. Their mission is to serve the business. Equipping analysts with the power of dbt often starts with lots of excitement. You upskill analysts to become engineers, and everyone is working together in dbt. But what about the analyst's original expertise, the thing that drives most value to the business, leveraging data to drive business insights? So you start getting requests from the business stakeholders, but your analysts are caught up in engineering workflows, which bring me to the second problem, which is speed. So business analysts are asked to analyze data to drive business decisions, but they cannot keep up because of those engineering workflows. Data teams are also caught up with tons of tickets trying to keep everything consistent. But the business cannot wait. And that's when you start seeing those famous workarounds. Business stakeholders skip the data team processes and ask their veteran analyst or preferred analyst to do something in Looker or in SQL or even in Excel, which ultimately leads me to the scale issue. As you scale and you want to handle all those bottlenecks, you have to hire more and more data engineers and analytics engineers, and the cost goes to the sky. The migration project to dbt is over, and those analysts are needed at the business. And whenever you let go, you end up having the same amounts of duplicates and inconsistencies that you worked so hard to prevent. I think this is a surprising fact that I want to share. Almost every data team, every large data team that I'm speaking with, ends up shifting dbt back to the hands of data engineers and away from analysts. And speaking of scale, think about the Looker side of things. It's often full of legacy logic. No one ever had the time to migrate to dbt or to organize or to clean. Data teams I'm working with, 70% of the Looker views are in zero usage in the past 2-3 months. Those thousands of views and measures contain thousands of definitions and SQL calculations. I call it the dark side of Looker no one even wants to look at. So, returning to where we started, let me try it and consolidate everything before we continue to my recommended solution. A complete data model in DBT is a significant step forward, but business logic doesn't bloom behind the scenes by data engineers. It's developed by analysts in the front lines of the business as part of their daily practices using the native BI environments like Looker. And those analysts work under tight deadlines with a business-centric approach. Expecting them to become data engineers overnight is just unrealistic. And the transition to DBT is more than just a technical upgrade. It's a cultural shift for analysts. Their expertise is in swiftly delivering data analysis using Looker's flexible interface. And they will always find their workaround, that they will not tolerate friction. That's when logic descends to silos again, and we hope things will eventually find their way to the central data model. So to conclude, striving for an aligned source of truth is hamstrung by the constant race to keep Looker and DBT in complete sync. In other words, perfecting this Looker DBT interface is key here. And while we have the technology and the tools and the solid understanding for modeling things in DBT that can later be used in Looker, it's the reverse flow, the other way around. How to capture logic that is crafted by analysts in Looker and then embedding it to DBT, that's a territory that awaits innovation. And I call this approach that we should follow when implementing this reverse flow dynamic data modeling. Because as I said several times, business logic is dynamic, so data models should be dynamic as well. And this approach, dynamic data modeling, consists of three key elements. The first one, meet analysts where they are. Let analysts leverage the tools that they've mastered, from SQL to their preferred BI tools like Looker, to craft their logic for rapid prototyping to test their ideas. Then use automation to get full visibility into your entire business logic, whether it's in DBT or in Looker, and to its actual utilization. So try to get insight into what's used, how much, by whom, and what's not used at all. And finally, develop tools to seamlessly promote mature business logic that is in actual high usage, from Looker to DBT to the central data model. What you get from this dynamic data modeling approach is an organization where everyone participates in the evolution of business logic, no matter the technical skill level, and they can do this safely. The immediate outcomes are that we free up business analysts to focus on what they do best, to focus on the business questions, and they deliver data products faster. We power up analytics and data engineers with governance tools that allow them to keep a consistent data model at any scale. And finally, we equip data teams and business teams with workflow tools that facilitate the coordination between the different roles and empower a collaborative dynamic. Now, as I said in the beginning, about a year ago, I co-founded Uno. And Uno is all about implementing this dynamic data modeling framework. With Uno, analysts continue to use Looker to test their ideas and to craft their logic. The data teams get complete visibility into every piece of business logic created, whether in DBT, in LookerML, or in Looker. And they can track the actual utilization of every single field and every table using Uno's catalog and lineage tools. When business concepts become mature and queried a lot, they can use Uno to automatically shift left metrics and tables from Looker to DBT using Uno's auto code generation mechanism. And at the same time, Uno makes sure automatically that everything you create in DBT remains in complete sync with Looker. Actually, teams no longer need to write any piece of LookML code anymore. And this product is built and shaped based on daily conversations with data teams and analytics engineers designed to solve your problems. Now, in summary, I mean, we covered a lot of things here, from the twists and turns of using both Looker and dbt to the endless tension between freedom and governance. And when it comes to parenting, where I started, I'm still figuring it out. But when it comes to data modeling, I'm your person. Now, this wasn't a thorough introduction of but if there's one thing I want you to take away from this talk is it doesn't have to be a question of freedom or governance. It's always both. And if you want to chat more about this, or if you want to learn more about and see a demo of the product, you can either scan this QR code and visit our website, or follow me on LinkedIn and read my posts, or read our use cases or blog posts. I'll be happy to continue the conversation about this. Thank you very, very much. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer or move on to the next talk. Thank you.